While Germany reinstates lockdowns for its unvaccinated citizens. German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced the restrictions yesterday and called the lockdowns, quote, an act of national solidarity. The country saw 70,000 new COVID cases in a 24-hour period. And joining me now is AC Wimmer, editor-in-chief of CNA Deutsch. AC, welcome back. Always great to see you. As you well know, Germany wasn't the first European country to reimpose lockdowns. Austria did it last week, and of course now Germany has followed suit. What more can you tell us about the lockdowns for the unvaccinated, and also how could it affect the faithful?
That's a great question, Tracy. It really depends on each diocese. So everyone who's vaccinated and who isn't vaccinated, whether they've been cured of corona and can show the certificate for it or not, needs to find out with their local parish at the moment. I've done so with my kids, some of which have not been vaccinated yet because they're too young. Others have had some sort of bug and we didn't know what it was. And that's the situation for all the faithful. But in particular, those services that are considered important outside of the religious sphere, such as dealing with the elderly, the frail, the sick, there are really compulsory rules now in place that mean you must be vaccinated if you're working with those people. And if you end up going to church, that you have to wear a mask even when you're singing and have an appropriate distance, social distancing in place when you're entering church.
Yeah, and it also seems that Chancellor Merkel seems to support vaccine mandates. Do you think that a vaccine mandate will happen in Germany's future? And also curious, will there be any exemptions, religious exemptions?
Well, strikingly, Angela Merkel and also Cardinal Reinhard Marx of Munich and Freising have spoken out in favor of some sort of mandatory vaccination regime, which, as I'm sure many of your viewers will know, might possibly run counter to what the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, the Vatican, has said, which says there is an imperative to help other people, but at the end of the day, there is also freedom of conscience when it comes to vaccination. The German federal government, the Bundestag, the parliament, they all agree that they will have to make a decision at some stage very soon. And the Ethics Council, which is kind of in place to advise and make a recommendation, has said it will do so before the end of the year, so in the coming weeks. As to whether mandatory vaccinations will then happen, we'll have to wait and see. I suspect they might well be in place.
And AC, I'm curious, how are the German people reacting to all of this news?
Well, I was expecting a bit more protest, to be honest. It seems to be quite on the hush. German society is very much consensus-based, and there has been a very concerted, if you like, campaign in the media and in the public sphere to ensure people understand why the government want this to happen, why vaccination does make sense when it comes to dealing, in their views, in their eyes, with what is a necessary medical procedure.
Well, AC, and some other news I want to turn to right now. Pro-life advocates have won the right to appeal a ban on prayer vigils in a German region. What more can you tell us about that?
This is a massively important case, but on the other hand, as to whether it sets a precedent, Tracy, we'll have to wait and see. Basically, what's happened is a court has, as you said, granted the right of appeal for a group that belongs to the American initiative 40 Days for Life, that were holding a silent prayer vigil outside of an abortion advisory center. In Germany, if you want to procure an abortion, God forbid, you have to go through a process where you are advised about what your options are and what can happen. And outside of these centers, you may find Christians and others perhaps holding a silent protest, offering help to those seeking assistance, etc. Rarely, unfortunately, is this met with anything but controversy. And in this particular instance, what we're seeing is that even a silent prayer may be something that a court will not grant the right to uphold. But as I said, it's a decision that has yet to be made. What we do know, however, and this is perhaps even much more concerning, Tracy, is the fact that the incoming government of Germany, the federal government, wants to ban these pavement nuisances, as they call them, altogether.
Well, AC, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your analysis.
Thank you kindly.